we're going to jump right in and talk about that McKinsey 2012 Global Cash Management Survey. 40% of global corporate banking revenues comes from transaction banking, and this was one of the findings in that report. I'm now joined at the moment with three very bright people, having reached and went through the doors of McKinsey. Thomas Natale is a partner at McKinsey. Also with us is Rafaela Ritter. She's an associate partner there. And Seungman So is a partner at McKinsey as well. Thanks to all of you for joining us. If I could start with you, Rafaela, first of all. Tell us about this report. This is not the first year that you've done this. Tell us how you actually conducted this survey.
Sure, happy to. So it's actually the second year we're conducting our survey. It's a global survey, so we're covering Europe, Asia, and the US. We have around 30 participants. Last year around 30, now a bit more than that. We're covering all kind of players, ranging from domestic players to pan-regional players to global players. And we're focusing on 5 core modules, which is one's organizational setup. So how is TB organized in banks? Is it fragmented? Is it focused in one unit? We're focusing also on strategic priorities of banks. So where do they see growth? In which regions? In which client segments? In which products? We're focusing on sales strategy. So is there an account planning implemented? Do our M's have transparency in selling TB products? And we're focusing on investments. So what are investment levels do we see in the industry? How are investments allocated? And last but not least, this year, the first time we had a quantitative module around revenue and productivity KPIs. And so we're trying to bring a holistic picture to the industry.
Sure, and if I could come to you now, Tommaso, what have been some of the key trends that you have found for 2012?
So there's clear strategic priority in doing more business on current clients. This is true across the board. So when thinking of a strategy, it often comes as objective number one: how can I do more business with my clients? How can I leverage best my relationships? However, we see big variance in commercial performance. So very different ratios of relationship managers, productivity, sales specialists, productivity, and very different levels of cross-selling of transaction banking vis-a-vis the entire relationship of the client. And this is, on one side, a clear signal to us that there is plenty of room for improvement on the good news for many banks, for many players there. While on the other side, I mean, there is also a challenge to be faced, because likely many things will need to be changed somehow in order to do the step. Second clear thing that we are seeing is that quite a number of banks, I would say close to half, feel somehow some balance sheet constraint to do their business. And this is leading to a major focus in prioritizing on clients and raising the issue on how can we best manage risk in our balance sheet, even thinking of how can I set risk out of my books. There is an increasing focus on Asia and appetite on Asia. This is pretty clear across the board, and it's coming through all banks. However, as a consequence of balance sheet constraint, US dollar funding issues, there are some banks, many of the Europeans, that cannot push as hard as they did in the past. And this is leaving some good opportunities for non-European banks to fill these gaps in order to have a higher role in financing the world trade that was predominantly taken by the European banks. Last but not least, we are still seeing that the level of investment is still increasing on a global level. This is not true throughout the globe, but the global picture is higher. There's a bit of scattered picture here and there. And then the question is, how can we maximize the return from this investment that still are quite increasing in the industry?
Okay. Seungman, tell us a little bit about what are some of the really issues, the key issues that these executives in these banks are grappling with. Is it also different, the issues between the bigger banks and the smaller banks, the global banks and the regional banks? Tell us a little bit about that, and then how you can address some of these issues that they've got.
Yes, so I think there are broadly 2 categories of actions that you could take. One is on the structural side, 2 is on the more tactical side. speaking with the tactical stuff first, we think that pricing is a very big lever that you can pull. We find that when we do interviews with MNC corporate treasurers, the pricing often is not the determining factor. So there's a lot of leeway and opportunities for banks to really think about pricing. I think there's also a challenge that banks face with end-to-end sales processes and really reducing complexity and getting costs out of servicing clients. So those are more on the tactical side. On the structural side, there is the bigger challenge of how you manage your country portfolio or network of businesses that you have. This is clearly some of the things that we see executives grappling with increasingly as there's increased pressure on costs in the transaction banking business and as banks allocate more and more investments to transaction banking. The other topic that is quite important is around product portfolio. A lot of banks over the years have developed a plethora of different types of products, ranging from very simple to very complex, not necessarily taking a customer-backed view of this. And that, again, drives complexity throughout the organization. So the question are how you modify and structure your product portfolio into different discrete modules that you can further build out from is also an opportunity that we see.
What are you guys advising people to do as they grapple with these challenges now? What specific things, if you can give me some examples of what are you advising people to do?
So I think two areas, and as the cash management survey that we highlighted, survey findings highlight, I think on we're getting lots of questions around revenues, right? Because of the sustained low yield environment and increased focus on returns, what can you do tactically on the revenue side to boost the profitability of the business? I think transaction banking, during the past few years have undergone, and this is why our title is why the title of the presentation is called From Zero to Hero. Is because, and that's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, obviously, title, right? Because transaction banking was never a zero. But the reason that we think that it's not now a hero is because it has such strategic implications to the overall banking business.
And we were chatting earlier, Raffaele and Tommaso, about the number of inquiries. Since you did this report last year, you at Sibos today, you have a stand as well throughout Sibos here in Osaka, and you were saying that inquiries from the banking industry for you guys and what you're advising people to do has gone up, what, would you say 50% more than that?
It dramatically increased, I would say. And just to give you an example, 3 years ago, it was very hard to have some share of mind and attention on a bank CEO or head of CAB talking specifically about transaction banking. And now this type of requests are very common. And at times even unsolicited by far. And this is a clear signal that there is a increasing sense of priority and often a number of questions that is pretty wide. And the sense that competitors are moving because this business has increased in strategic importance for many banks. Many are acting. Everybody's aware that others are acting, but no one wants to miss the train, right? So there is a urgency of action that is increased quite dramatically. And still we see it year by year, vis-a-vis last year. This year is further increase down that road. Yeah,
plus if I may add to that, it's still a very, very challenging business and banks now recognize that and there are high investments, many units are involved in the end-to-end sales value chain and so there is need for advice.
Okay, well, I wish you best of luck. I hope a lot of those inquiries translate into sales for you here at Sibos 2012. Best of luck to you all. Thanks very much for joining us.